I stared at Tom, my husband of 15 years, unable to believe what I'd just heard. "If you don't want to live with my parents, then we are getting a divorce," he repeated, his face a mask of cold determination. The words hung in the air between us, heavy and suffocating. I felt the floor shift beneath my feet, my world tilting on its axis. How had we come to this? "Tom, you can't be serious," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. "We've been married for so long. Your parents, they're impossible to live with." Crossed his arms, unmoved. "They're family, Stella. My family. And they need us now." I thought of Mabel and George, my in-laws, with their constant demands and criticism. The mere idea of sharing a home with them made my skin crawl. "What about what I need, Tom? What about us?" "There is no us without my parents," he snapped. "You knew who I was when you married me, did I?" I wasn't so sure anymore. The man standing before me seemed like a stranger, not the loving partner I thought I knew. "This isn't fair," I protested, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. "We should be grieving my father, not arguing about your parents moving in." Tom's expression softened slightly at the mention of my recently deceased father, but his resolve didn't waver. "Life goes on, Stella. We have responsibilities." I turned away, unable to look at him. My gaze fell on a photo of my father, Ethan, smiling back at me from the mantel. What would he say if he could see me now? "I need time to think," I said finally, my voice steadier than I felt. "You have until the end of the week," Tom replied, already heading for the door. "Then I want your decision." As the door closed behind him, I sank onto the couch, my head in my hands. How had my life come to this? An ultimatum from my husband, the loss of my beloved father, and the looming specter of my insufferable in-laws. I reached for my phone, my fingers hovering over Martin's number. My father's old friend had been a rock since the funeral, and right now I desperately needed someone on my side. Little did I know that phone call would be the first step towards changing everything. The day of my father's funeral arrived, a blur of black clothes and somber faces. I stood before his casket, my heart heavy with grief, when I felt Mabel's bony fingers grip my arm. "You have to take care of us now," she whispered, her breath cold in my ear. I stiffened, shocked by her audacity. "Mabel, this is hardly the time," I hissed, trying to shake her off. But she clung tighter. "We're family, Stella. Your father would have wanted you to look after us." I bit back a retort, my father's voice echoing in my head. "Always take the high road, sweetheart." But as I watched Tom fawn over his parents, I wondered how much longer I could keep my composure. After the service, we gathered for the reading of the will. I sat next to Tom, his hand resting possessively on my knee. The lawyer cleared his throat and began to read. "To my beloved daughter Stella, I leave my most prized possession, the land in upstate New York." I gasped. The land Dad's sanctuary, his dream. Tears welled in my eyes. "What a windfall!" Tom exclaimed, squeezing my knee. "We could build a two-family house there. Perfect for Mom and Dad to move in with us." I turned to him, aghast. "Tom, that's not what—" "Oh, how wonderful!" Mabel interrupted, clapping her hands. "George, did you hear that? We'll all be together." I looked around the room, feeling trapped. My father's lawyer caught my eye, his expression unreadable. "There's more," he said, producing an envelope. "Stella, your father left this for you, to be opened in private." Tom reached for it, but I snatched it away. "It's addressed to me," I said firmly. Later that night, I sat alone in our bedroom, the envelope trembling in my hands. I broke the seal and unfolded the letter inside. "My dearest Stella," it began. "If you're reading this, I'm gone. But I hope this land will give you the fresh start you need. It's yours, sweetheart. Yours alone. Don't let anyone take it from you, not even Tom. You're stronger than you know. Love, Dad." I clutched the letter to my chest, a mix of grief and determination washing over me. Dad had known, he'd seen what I couldn't. As Tom's voice drifted up from downstairs, discussing renovation plans with his parents, I made a silent vow. This land was my legacy, my future. And I wouldn't let anyone, not Tom, not Mabel and George, take it away from me. I stood in the kitchen, clutching my father's letter as Tom burst through the door. His eyes gleamed with excitement, completely oblivious to my inner turmoil. "Stella, I've been thinking about that land," he announced, grabbing an apple from the fruit bowl. "We could build a beautiful house there. 2 stories for us, one for Mom and Dad." I took a deep breath. "Tom, I don't think—" "Oh, come on," he interrupted, waving his hand dismissively. "It'll be perfect. Everything you have belongs to me too, remember? We're married." His words hit me like a slap. I stared at him, truly seeing him for the first time. This land was my father's gift to me, Tom. Not to us. To me. Tom's face darkened. "What are you talking about? We're a team, Stella. What's yours is mine." "No," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "This land is mine. And I don't want your parents living there." He slammed his hand on the counter, making me jump. "You're being selfish. My parents need us. They're family. And what about my needs, Tom?" I shot back. "What about what I want?" "What you want," he scoffed. "Since when do you know what you want? I make the decisions in this family, Stella. Always have." The truth of his words stung. How long had I been living under his thumb, letting him control every aspect of our lives? "Not anymore," I said quietly. Tom's eyes narrowed. "What did you say?" "I said not anymore," I repeated, louder this time. "This is my land, my decision. And I'm saying no to your plans." He stepped closer, his face contorted with anger. "You ungrateful little—" The doorbell rang, cutting him off. We both froze, staring at each other. "This isn't over," Tom growled, storming out of the kitchen. I leaned against the counter, my heart pounding. What had I done? How could I stand up to Tom and his parents? But as I heard Mabel's shrill voice floating in from the hallway, I knew I had to find a way. I couldn't let them take my father's last gift from me. I wouldn't. Slipping out the back door, I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in years. "Martin," I said when he answered. "It's Stella. I need your help." I sat across from Martin in a quiet cafe, my hands wrapped around a steaming mug of coffee. His kind eyes studied me as I poured out the whole sordid story: Tom's ultimatum, Mabel's demands, and the fight over my father's land. "We'll find a way to take back what's yours," Martin said firmly when I finished. His words were like a lifeline in a storm. "But how?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. "Tom's already talking about building on the land. He acts like it belongs to him." Martin leaned forward. "Stella, your father left that land to you, not Tom. Have you seen the deed?" I shook my head, realization dawning. "No, I assumed Tom had taken care of it." "That's your first step," Martin said. "Get a copy of that deed. And while you're at it, I'd take a look at your joint accounts. Something doesn't add up here." My stomach churned. What else had I blindly trusted Tom with? As if on cue, my phone buzzed. A text from Tom. "Where are you?" "Mom and Dad are here to discuss house plans." I ignored it, looking back at Martin. What if Tom's done something illegal?
Martin's expression hardened. "Then we'll use that to protect you and your inheritance. Your father was my best friend, Stella. I won't let his last wish for you be trampled on." Tears pricked my eyes. For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. "Okay," I said, straightening my shoulders. "What's our next move?" Martin smiled. "Now we start digging. I have a friend in real estate law. We'll get to the bottom of this, I promise." As we left the cafe, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Tom, this time with a photo attached. It showed a blueprint spread across our dining room table, Mabel and George beaming beside it. "Look at our new home," the caption read. White-hot anger surged through me. They were planning my future without me, treating my father's gift like their personal playground. Martin, I said, my voice steady and determined. I want to fight, not just for the land, but for myself. Will you help me? He nodded, a fierce pride in his eyes. Every step of the way, Stella. It's time to show Tom and his parents who you really are. As we walked to Martin's car, I felt a shift inside me. The meek, accommodating Stella was gone. In her place stood a woman ready to reclaim her life, her inheritance, and her dignity. Tom and his parents had no idea what was coming. I was sorting through Dad's old papers when my phone rang. An unfamiliar number flashed on the screen. Hello, Mrs. Harrison? This is Jake from Pinewood Constructions. I'm just calling to confirm that the house you ordered is almost finished. We'll need the final payment by next week to stay on schedule. My blood ran cold. I'm sorry, what house? The two-story home on Oak Ridge Lane? Your husband, Tom, commissioned it a few months ago. Said it was a surprise for you and his parents. The room spun. Tom had secretly started building on my father's land without my knowledge or consent. I mumbled something to Jake and hung up, my hands shaking. Fury and betrayal coursed through me as I stormed downstairs. Tom was in the living room, laughing with his parents over coffee. How could you? I demanded, my voice trembling. Tom's smile faltered. Stella, what dash? You're building a house on my father's land without telling me. The room fell silent. Mabel and George exchanged glances. Now, Stella, Tom said, his tone patronizing, I wanted it to be a surprise. A fresh start for all of us. A fresh start? I laughed bitterly. You mean a way to trap me into living with your parents? Don't be dramatic, Tom snapped. This is what's best for everyone. Best for whom, Tom? You? Your parents? What about what I want? Mabel piped up, her voice sickly sweet. Darling, we're family. This is what families do. I turned to her, years of pent-up frustration boiling over. We are not family. You're manipulative, selfish people who only care about yourselves. George stood up, face red. Now see here, young lady dash. No, you see here, I interrupted. That land was my father's gift to me. Not to Tom, not to you.
To me.
And I won't let you take it. Tom grabbed my arm. Stella, you're embarrassing yourself. Stop this nonsense now. I yanked my arm away, a calm clarity washing over me.
No, Tom.
I'm done stopping. I'm done being silent. This ends now. I turned and walked out of the room, ignoring their protests. In the hallway, I pulled out my phone and dialed Martin's number. Martin? It's Stella. I need a lawyer. Today. As I hung up, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. For the first time in years, I saw strength in my eyes. Tom and his parents had pushed me too far. Now, they would learn what happened when they underestimated Stella Harrison. I stood in our bedroom, hastily packing a suitcase, my hands trembling with a mix of anger and determination. The house felt suffocating, every corner a reminder of Tom's betrayal and my own complacency. Suddenly, Tom burst through the door, his face contorted with rage. What do you think you're doing? I didn't look up. I'm leaving, Tom. It's over. He grabbed my arm, forcing me to face him. You can't leave. We're family. My parents dash. Your parents are the problem, I shouted, yanking my arm free. You and your parents have controlled every aspect of my life for years. No more. Tom's eyes narrowed dangerously. Let's divorce if you won't live with my parents. Is that what you want? To throw away everything we've built? His words, meant to intimidate, only strengthened my resolve. Yes, I said, my voice steady. That's exactly what I want. The shock on his face was almost comical. He'd never expected me to agree, to stand up for myself. You're bluffing, he sputtered. You have nothing without me. Where will you go? What will you do? I zipped up my suitcase, meeting his gaze. I have more than you think, Tom. My father's land, for one. His face paled. That land belongs to us. I've already started building dash. You had no right, I interrupted. And you'll be hearing from my lawyer about that. Tom's composure cracked. He lunged forward, knocking the suitcase from my hands. You ungrateful bitch. After everything I've done for you. I stumbled back, fear mixing with my anger. This was a side of Tom I'd never seen, but somehow always knew existed. Tom, I said, trying to keep my voice calm, you need to leave.
Now.
He advanced, his fists clenched. I'm not going anywhere. This is my house. You're my wife. In that moment, I saw our entire marriage for what it truly was, a cage, gilded by false promises and manipulations. And I was done being trapped. I straightened my spine, channeling every ounce of strength my father had believed I possessed. Not anymore, Tom. We're done. Get out of my way. He hesitated, clearly not expecting this level of defiance. I seized the moment, grabbing my suitcase and pushing past him. As I reached the stairs, I heard Mabel's shrill voice. Tom, what's going on? I didn't wait to hear his response. I flew down the stairs, out the front door, and into the waiting cab I'd called earlier. As we pulled away, I caught a glimpse of Tom and his parents in the doorway, their faces a mix of shock and fury. But for the first time in years, I felt free. My phone buzzed, a text from Martin. Lawyers ready. We'll fight this, Stella. You're not alone. I took a deep breath, realizing this was just the beginning. The real battle for my father's land and my independence was about to begin. But I was ready. No more compromises, no more submission. It was time to reclaim my life. Martin's office felt like a war room as he spread documents across his desk. This is how we take back what's yours, he said, handing me a thick folder. I leafed through the pages, my heart racing. What is all this? Evidence, Martin replied, his eyes gleaming. Tom's been busy, Stella. Not just with the house on your land. As Martin explained, my world tilted on its axis. Tom had been siphoning money from our joint accounts for years, funneling it into a separate account under his parents' names. The house on my father's land was just the tip of the iceberg. He's been planning this for a long time, I whispered, feeling sick. Martin nodded grimly. But we've got him now. With this evidence, we can not only stop the construction but also file for financial fraud. A mix of anger and determination surged through me. What's our next move? We file an injunction to halt construction immediately, Martin said. Then, we go after Tom and his parents for fraud. Just then, my phone buzzed. A text from Tom. You have 24 hours to come home, or I'm selling the land. Your choice. I showed Martin the message, my hands shaking. He can't do that, Martin assured me. The land is in your name. But what if he forged documents? I asked, panic rising. What if Dash?
Martin gripped my shoulders. Stella, listen to me. We're going to win this. But I need you to be strong. Can you do that? I took a deep breath, channeling my father's strength. Yes, I can. The next 24 hours were a whirlwind. We filed the injunction, served Tom with papers, and prepared for the inevitable confrontation. As the deadline approached, I stood on the edge of my father's land, watching the half-built house that represented all of Tom's betrayal. My phone rang. Tom. Time's up, Stella, he snarled. I'm selling the land. You've lost. I felt a calm settle over me. No, Tom. You've lost. Check your email. I heard him fumbling with his phone, then a sharp intake of breath. What is this? The truth, I said firmly. The injunction, the fraud charges, all of it. It's over, Tom. His voice turned desperate. Stella, please. We can work this out. My parents, Dash. Your parents are as guilty as you are, I interrupted. I'm done being manipulated. This ends now. As I hung up, I saw a car approaching. Tom with Mabel and George in tow. This was it, the final confrontation. I squared my shoulders, Martin's words echoing in my mind. Be strong. As they got out of the car, faces contorted with anger, I knew the real battle was just beginning. But for the first time, I was ready to fight. I stood my ground as Tom, Mabel, and George approached, their faces contorted with rage. The half-built house loomed behind me, a testament to their betrayal. You ungrateful witch. Mabel screeched. After all we've done for you. I felt a calm settle over me, my father's strength flowing through my veins. You and your parents have no right to use my land, I said, my voice steady and clear. Tom lunged forward, but I didn't flinch. This land is ours, Stella. You can't do this to us. No, Tom, I replied, holding up the folder Martin had given me. This land is mine, and I have proof of your fraud, your lies, everything. George's face paled. What are you talking about? I turned to him, years of pent-up frustration pouring out. The secret accounts, the stolen money, the forged documents. It's all here, and the authorities have copies. Tom's bravado crumbled. Stella, please. We can work this out. We're family. Family. I laughed bitterly. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't manipulate. You're not my family anymore. As if on cue, police sirens wailed in the distance. Mabel gasped, clutching George's arm. What have you done? Tom whispered, his voice breaking. I straightened my spine, channeling every ounce of my father's resilience. I've taken back what's mine. My land, my life, my dignity. The police cars pulled up, officers emerging with stern faces. As they approached, I saw the realization dawn on Tom's face. It was over. As the officers led them away, Mabel turned to me one last time. You'll regret this, Stella. You're nothing without us. I shook my head, a weight lifting from my shoulders. No, Mabel. I'm everything without you. Watching them drive away, I felt a presence beside me. Martin placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. Your father would be proud, Stella. Tears welled in my eyes as I looked at the land stretching before me. My land. My future. What now? Martin asked gently. I smiled, truly smiled, for the first time in years. Now I build my own home. On my terms. As the sun set over my father's land, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The battle was won, but more importantly, I had found myself again. Strong, resilient, free. I closed my eyes, feeling my father's presence in the gentle breeze. Thank you, Dad, I whispered. I'm home.